Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this Tuesday, July 28th edition of Bang the Book Radio. My name is Adam Burke, your host for the next 20 to 25 minutes here as we're going to go in rapid-fire fashion with Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. We'll chat WGC-FedEx St. Jude Invitational. We'll talk a little bit of NASCAR at New Hampshire. Then we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference Series for the qualifying round that begins here on Saturday in the NHL bubble up in Toronto. Over at bangthebook.com, I've written about 6,000 words on today's MLB card, so make sure you head on over there and check that out. I put a lot of time into it, so I'd appreciate it if you took the time to read through it there. I believe there are 4 plays, maybe 5, in the article here for today's action. Also over there, I'm going to do some series preview stuff for the NHL playoffs. Got a golf preview up. We'll do NASCAR here probably tomorrow, I think. We got golf daily fantasy tips. We got some NBA stuff from Charles J. Lots going on in the sports world, and we're covering it all for you over at bangthebook.com. Finally, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio, presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the sportsbook, 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. We've got one guest on today's show. That is Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio, Vegas Hockey Hotline, the Hockey Betting Podcast, the BetMaker Golf Betting Podcast. Very busy man here, Brian. How's it going today, buddy?
All right, pal. We'll see. I'm telling you, the next few days are going to be big here. If the catcher or the first baseman or the home plate umpire for the Phillies come down with something, that ain't going to be good. That's all I'll say. I think the key to the whole thing are those 3 people. If you're just being in proximity to another team that had an outbreak, and somehow if you're in proximity to them and something happens with those guys, pull the plug. Honestly, God, I swear for baseball, I think those 3 guys specifically. Other than that, okay, the Marlins, somebody went out, did something they shouldn't have done, and it went through the room. Hopefully they manage it and you get on with it. But if those guys, a 3-game set, and the guys that more often than not were in proximity to Marlins players were the umpires, the catcher, and the first baseman for the Phillies. If anything happens with those guys, God bless all of us.
Yeah, and it sort of looks like, more than half of the Marlins 30-man roster now has tested positive for it. So something obviously, as you mentioned, going through that locker room. But, you look at the NHL, and we'll obviously talk about the qualifying round here in a few minutes, but the NHL with no positive tests at all from July 18th to July 25th. So the NBA obviously doing pretty well now that everybody's into Orlando. Looks like the bubble is the way to go. So
it's the only way.
The NFL better figure something out. College, they're not going to be able to do it. The NFL better figure something out here in a hurry.
No, I think that's true. Listen, horse racing, golf, NASCAR found a way with minimal problems, but minimal manageable problems. The bubble, I think the NHL has been and is in the best position to pull this off. I think they did the best work on the front end. The NBA, if guys, do what they're supposed to do, probably okay. But the football thing, Adam, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, kid. Because
it is.
I said this on March 20th. Third play of the game, running back goes off left tackle. Gets hit, blindsided, fumbles the ball, 7 guys jump in a pile. Got him, guy at the bottom of the pile's got it. The other 6 guys on the pile get it. So, and I don't know if it was last week. Maybe it wasn't. I did it with you. I'm sorry. They run together doing all this stuff. But on Real Sports on HBO, they had the insiders from from basketball, hockey, and football. And the question was, scale of 1 to 10, the number you'd put on your sport to complete the season. And Aldridge from the on the NBA side said, I believe 8. Verducci for baseball, I thought he said 6. And then Peter King comes in talking about football and said 4. I mean, that's that's not good, man. You know, this is Peter King. I mean, he ain't going to bite his nose off to spite his face. And he's saying you're trusting 22, 23-year-old kids that you're get a lot of money for the first time. You're trusting these guys to, go to the facility, practice, play games, and go home. And that's not going to happen.
No,
I know. By the way, an Army. I mean, you're talking, more than 100 people per organization. And if it goes like what happens if it goes like wildfire through a team, on a Friday morning, week 4, and I don't know, the Falcons, 37 guys. What is it, a forfeit? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a minor league system. You got a practice squad, but you don't have a minor league system like you have, in Major League Baseball, or you don't have like a G League squad like you have in the NBA. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what you do. And we're seeing a lot of players in the NFL opt out, a lot of first and second year guys even kind of opting out. And I don't know if maybe that speaks to, their level of trust in the protocols that the NFL has suggested, or just kind of looking at what's happening with Major League Baseball here. But 6 Patriots have already opted out. So if you had global pandemic in the pool for how the Patriots get Trevor Lawrence, you may end up winning that one.
And you bring up a great point. We'll see in the next few days with the Marlins. But the end result of this, the trickle down, how many guys may indeed in many sports say, no, and opt out. Say, look, these guys made it 3 days. It's, I don't know, my friend.
I don't know either, but we'll get on to some happier news here, and that's the WGC-FedEx St. Jude Invitational at TPC Southwind. And man, these transitions these days feel so cold and callous with everything that's going on.
Oh, you know what? I honestly, it's funny, because I do this all the time. We're talking about sports betting, and usually if there's something horrible, a tragedy befalls an athlete or a team, and well, I mean, we had to do this here after the October 1 shooting in Vegas a few years ago. So what do you do? How do you talk about sports? I didn't know what to do. I mean, every time you got to put the caveat on it. I mean, listen, or the thing. But then there are things that are coming up that there's a reaction to that thing, and you got to find the way to do the transition. The only thing I could think of, and honestly, she was wonderful. I got hold of Mayor Goodman, and she came on the show on the Tuesday after the October 1 thing, and we went through the whole thing and said, "What do we do? I mean, we got to go forward." But it was almost like. It's almost like one of these things. Like she gave you permission to. We've got to find a way to go for it. It's impossible when something's so bad, and then okay. But by the way, there's a game tomorrow, and so what do you think? Does that knock the total down a half a point? It's crazy. How do you do it?
It really is. It's difficult. It definitely is. So we try to distract ourselves the best we can, I guess, and we do have a great field here at TPC Southwind. 45 of the top 50 in the official world golf ranking on hand for this one. Obviously, massive prize pool, $10.5 million, extra FedEx Cup playoff points with the WGC status and the invitational status as well. So we cut the field about in half. No cut for this one because we've got such a small field. John Rahm, your 11-1 favorite. Rory and Bryson DeChambeau, 12-1. Same thing with Justin Thomas. Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, 18-1. Bunch of quality players between 20 and 40. DJ, Morikawa, Hovland, Berger, Matsuyama, Koepka, Finau, just to name a few. Really, really good field here. Par 70, a long par 70. Looks like distance off the tee will be pretty important this week.
Yeah, and, horses for courses. Dustin Johnson has 6 WGC events. He's got a couple of wins on this course, but he's not healthy, and form's terrible. Daniel Berger is the one, I think, that becomes really interesting. He won this event before it was a WGC event in 2016 and 2017, back-to-back years. Now the guy's come back from injury and is just lighting it up every week. He goes out there. He's got 2 wins on the course, and his game is completely back. So, honestly, if I said to you today, in this event, Daniel Berger, who's 28-1, and Dustin Johnson's 28-1, who are you playing in a matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to play Berger. I mean, DJ
right?
just looks bad. I mean, the back-to-back 80s at the Memorial. Yeah, he is. He's hurt. Yeah, and that's a big thing, at this time of the year. I mean, guys are trying to push through stuff because they haven't been making any money, over the course of the shutdown. Not that Dustin Johnson needs money, obviously, but, it's still nice to get those paychecks, go out there and, make some money and play some golf. And, I mean, we all wish we could be so lucky, but, yeah, he's not healthy. And Berger's a guy that, he was first and third in those first 2 events back. He's kind of picked his spots a little bit since then. You mentioned he had that, potentially career-ending wrist injury that he came back from. So he's kind of limited himself a little bit. That's kind of the question about this event, though, is I look at a guy like Brooks Koepka, 28, 30-1. He was 33-1 at some places earlier in the week. How do you not take Brooks Koepka at this point?
I don't know. His current form's horrific. He's another one. What did he have? An MRI on his knee a few weeks ago? I don't know. He can't find a fairway off the tee. Can he find it, fix it, and then contend? I guess, sure, but it's almost to me, it's way big, too big a leap of faith to take, just from a current form perspective. Clearly, I mean, you look at that number and you're like, what's that all about? Well, he's not right. Of the favorites, you can't knock anything Rahm did at Memorial. I think DeChambeau's really interesting, 12-1. I'm not going near him. He that had the meltdown at the Memorial on one hole. He went tin cup. He had a Framazoid. I think that motivates this guy. He'll be fiery, and he's contended basically in every tournament, so he'll be very polarizing, fun to watch. Justin Thomas had the one tournament, one gave it away. McIlroy's up and down right now. The guy I love, and I guess I'm kind of happy to see this, my top pick that I'm very much all about, and I bet him yesterday at 24-1, and he's been bet down to 18, is Xander Schauffele. I love Schauffele this week. He had a bad week at the Memorial, and the funny thing was, I learned more about this kid. I knew about him, but I just love him even more. I watched him the first 2 days. The way they cover golf is horrific. It's just awful on television. The first page of the leaderboard, there's 7 guys. Well, there's 2 guys on the second page that are 3 shots back that can win the tournament that you don't see, until they're tied for the lead. And I know there are limitations because of the pandemic, but good God, man, show golf shots. But Schauffele had a real bad first 2 days at the Memorial. And you know what? He didn't sit there. He wasn't slamming clubs. He wasn't cursing or jawing or barking with his caddy. He just had his head down, and his demeanor on a bad day made me love the kid even more. And he steps up to the plate in the WGC events and contends. And I just think, in the next, with all the great young players that are coming up here, I think in the next, decade, Schauffele, there's majors in his future, and it's a WGC event. Of the chalkish guys, Schauffele is by a good margin my favorite player here. Webb Simpson, by the way, was the runner-up in this tournament last year, and he's in really good form. But it's Schauffele for me with some bombs to come.
Yeah, I like Schauffele too, and I've seen a lot of people like Schauffele this week, which is kind of scary in some respects, but we're all sort of thinking the same thing here. Opening round 78 at the Memorial. He was in line to miss the cut, and he finished 13th. He finished tied for 13th. Could have made a top 10 if he had rolled in a couple more putts on the last day.
It's funny, man. I mean, we say this in football sometimes or other sports. I think you can learn more about a team. We used to do, when I first got out to Vegas, we dreamed up a thing called the Odds Makers poll when I was over at LVSC. You're sitting there and you're looking at the AP top 20, and we're sitting there, number 9's playing number 2, and number 9's a 4.5-point favorite. We're sitting there going, what the hell is this poll? Let's do the odds makers poll. And the thing about the odds makers poll was a team could lose a game and their power rating would go up. You could learn more about a team in defeat and not penalize them. They lost the game, but my God, this team, was a 13-point dog and lost by 4, but fumbled twice in the red zone or something. You're saying, these guys are way better than we thought. And they would lose the game, and we'd actually up them, and it was a fair and honest poll. And I think you can learn more about somebody, how they handle the bad things or in defeat, and that was Shoffley at Memorial. He could have packed it in. Friday night, Saturday morning, he could have gone out there, just slapped it around and got the hell out of there. And he just grinded away. I learned more about that kid, on a tournament he finished 13th than one he finished second.
No, I totally agree. And something else about the course this week is I was kind of looking at some of the stuff over at datagolf.com, and they do an excellent job with that. I was looking at that, and, I was looking at what was really valuable in this tournament last year. And something that I found interesting is that it looks like the greens were a lot feistier for the Invitational than they were for the former St. Jude Classic, where a lot of the best players didn't go because of the timing of the tournament. It fell between majors and all that kind of thing. But putting was really important last year. And that's interesting because a lot of tournaments here recently have been all about strokes gained approach, all about the ball striking. Shoffley's a good ball striker, but you don't see people talking about Colin Morikawa as much this week. You don't see them talking as much about Victor Hovland this week. You don't see as much about Hideki Matsuyama this week because the flat stick will be important. And if you look at this course, some of these greens are enormous, and they'll be 2-tiered greens with slopes, a lot of them protected by water, stuff like that. So I think putting is really important this week. Shoffley putted very well at the Workday Charity Open, not as well at the Memorial, but as you talked about, he kind of grinded his way through it. So I think maybe you look for some putters this week here as some of the longer shots. Is that kind of the direction you went?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all part and parcel, part of the equation. I mean, just hearing your description of that, I mean, I think I didn't use him, but I mean, I would look at a guy like a Kisner, who can really roll the flat stick. I think the break hurt Sung J M more than anybody. I mean, this kid was consistently in the 25 to 30 range. When the light bulb, I'll tell you one thing, when M contends again, and hopefully you don't miss the boat that he actually wins the thing, but when he contends again, start riding this kid because he basically is an ATM machine, and now he knows how to win. A bomb price that I'll use here is a guy I played last week. And I'm like, well, what was I thinking? On Thursday, he shoots 73. I'm like, I don't know what you were thinking on that one. Well, he comes back, shoots 66, 66, 68. And he was threatening to post a number, and he flattened out a little bit, but he had to go really low. It was Bernd Wiesberger. And, I said, this guy's a world-class player. He's another one of these European guys. He's going to start to make a go of it on the PGA Tour. Well, the WGC event, man, these guys are all there for a reason. But I learned something about Bernd Wiesberger last week. I took a flyer on him on the front end of the tournament at 150 to 1, and he shot himself out of the tournament, in essence, on Thursday, but then played great. So he figured something out. So he's coming in here in really good form, and in no way, shape, or form should this guy be 140 to 1. So there's my bomb for you. But it is the WGC, and the one you can go down, and I mean this with all sincerity, you can go down to a guy like Sung Kang at 500 to 1 because there'll be a guy contending this week that's a grenade price. These are the top 64 guys in the world, and what's great about what I love about the WGCs, there are no cuts. So everything we just said about a guy like Shoffley, you have a bad first round. Well, maybe the tournament they're toast to, but they have that bad round. All of a sudden, you're getting value on these guys in the matchups on the weekend. So somebody stubs their toe but figures it out. They're probably not going to hit the top 5, but you can sit there and hammer them in a matchup because there's no cut.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The one that I like here, and this isn't as big of a bomb price as the one that you mentioned, Matthew Wolff is 80 to 1, and Matthew Wolff hits it a hell of a long way. Driving distance is important here. Last week, he was very, very good putting at the 3M Open, 6th in strokes gained off the tee at Memorial. That's on a pretty tough course. I think Wolff's a guy that's got a pretty good skill set. And again, all these guys in that 22 to 28 type of range, the Morikawas, the Wolffs, the Hovlands, the Schauffles. I mean, we may see a little bit of a passing of the torch here in maybe not this year, but maybe next year, where these guys start to really get there in majors, stuff like that. I think Wolff is one of those players that has the upside to do that. And much like Schauffele, who, as we talked about already and both of us plays really well in these loaded types of fields, I think you start to look for a guy like a Wolff. We've already seen Morikawa and Hovland do that, but a guy like Wolff maybe takes that next step and saves his best for these loaded fields too.
No, absolutely. Wolff was a guy we talked about on the golf podcast. He's close, and if he gets the putter going, he's dangerous. But he does, and when he gets hot, man, he flag hunts. But his form, every now and again, if he sprays it a little bit, is when he gets in trouble. But he is really close to cracking the door to be one of the next good things. Kind of, the way DeChambeau just exploded on the scene, and he's there every week. Wolff is close to being that kind of guy where he's in the discussion every week, and those numbers go. And if he wins again, that's the thing with this sport, Adam. If he wins again, he's 25-1 the rest of the year.
Yeah. Now's probably a pretty good time to hop on a guy like him at 80-1. Again, he was the reigning champ, I believe, from the 3M Open last week. Played well enough. Wasn't necessarily there at the end, but played well enough to give me some confidence here for this week at TPC Southwind. We transition over to the NASCAR side of things really quickly here because I want to make sure we've got some time to talk NHL. We're up at Loudon, New Hampshire here for the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301. Little over a mile long here, so this is one of those intermediate tracks. And as we kind of look at the odds, it's the usual suspects. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, all those guys that are always up at the top, Denny Hamlin, all those guys that are usually up there, they're up there this week. Elliott is down the board a little bit here with this being the 1 mile surface, but any thoughts on what we're looking at here this weekend at New Hampshire?
Well, what I'm excited about is once we get by this one, we're back into that mode where we're getting like 4 races in the blink of an eye, back-to-back at Michigan, boatload of races that are coming up. How do you go any further than the past winners? Kevin Harvick the last 2, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick. So basically it's been the Harvick and Hamlin show all year, and these guys have won, modern math here, what have they won? 4 of the last 5. Do you go any further than that? Those 2 guys?
No, I don't think you have to. I mean,
they have
the cars. They've had the cars all year long. The teams are doing well. And these are 2 drivers that, I mean, they don't make the mistakes that some guys do. They don't get into the wrong line, rub with somebody. More often than not, they're finishing races. And when they finish a race with the cars that they have, they're going to be up front. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot of value on Harvick at plus 360 or Hamlin at plus 400. But, again, matchups, group finishes, stuff like that, that's where you attack NASCAR right now with these guys.
Yeah, and you know what? If there's a guy – jeez, and I know I'm pretty sure it was you, Adam. Again, I apologize. I'm like, was it Adam or was it this guy? I think you were the one who was yapping about Eric Jones. Was it last week? Possibly. Yeah. It was, right? Yeah. He's got a fast car. I mean, the guy that shows up every week is Blaney. The guy's snake bit. And the other guy that kind of has the same kind of thing going on to a degree is an Eric Jones. The problem is the cat's out of the bag, and Blaney's going to be 8-1 every week, and a Jones is going to get you more. I don't know. What do you got on Jones?
What is Jones here? Let's see. We got Jones at 25.
Well, there you go. And okay, and then Blaney, what? 6, 8,
11.
Oh, all right. Well, still, I mean, he's there every week. I mean, Blaney literally's got a rocket sled. They just screw it up in the pits, make mistakes in the pits, or he grazes the wall, or he gets. I mean, he's Blaney, right? Don't you think? I mean, the amount of laps he's led this year, Blaney could have won 4 races this year at least.
Yeah, he definitely could have. We've got 7 races here in the next 27 days, back-to-back at Michigan next weekend, Daytona, back-to-back at Dover, then Daytona again before we head on into the Cup Championship playoffs. So should be a lot of fun here over the next 4 weeks in NASCAR, and it's definitely going to be a lot of fun in the NHL. They've got exhibition games starting today. The playoffs officially start on Saturday, where you've got the qualifying rounds for the best of 5, and then you've got the top 4 seeds in each conference playing their little round robin to determine seeding for the next round. And Brian, I guess let's go ahead and just take a look real quickly here at these series prices for the qualifying round. We touched on the Western Conference last week, so if you missed that, go back, check out the end of last Tuesday's show where we talked about those. The Canadians and the Penguins will be the first one here. Penguins a minus 230 favorite over at DSI Sportsbook for this series. They are the biggest favorite by far of these qualifying round prices. Is it going to be that easy for Pittsburgh?
Well, I don't understand why it's such a big number. I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh is dominant by any stretch of the imagination. I think clearly they've got the best players. You've got Crosby and Malkin. The goaltending can be a little bit suspect. The thing that scared me, everybody, Montreal, short series, Carey Price. Can it happen? Yeah. Is it going to? No. I don't think. But I do think the number's a little too high to lay that kind of number when we don't know that these guys, the Penguins get up there and they're stuck in their rooms and they go down to the ping pong table and they're, playing Call of Duty or Fortnite after the 5th day, and they look at each other and go, this sucks. Let's get out of here. I'm not laying any big number with anybody in this thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, what is too big of a number here in a best of 5 where all of these teams are, essentially on equal footing? I mean, they've had their little camps and, they've gotten ready for the season as best they can, or the playoffs as best they can. But, is Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh form for this?
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, take it with a grain of salt here. Okay, it's going to sound not bragging or soccer. Okay, I watch the World Cup. I watch the CONCACAF Gold Cup. I enjoy that. Now, I may actually start doing Premier League stuff for a simple reason. I've gotten into this MLS stuff. And the only reason I did is it's the same thing as why I like the World Cup, because I know next to nothing. I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't follow soccer. Well, once this MLS thing, we're sitting here, there's nothing on TV, and at the very beginning of this tournament, I sat down and I watched the game. Then I'm listening to, and now it's a tournament, and here's the pools and the groups, and I'm like, all right. I start watching this stuff, Adam. I'm hammering it. I mean, I've watched them. Okay, yeah, this team's really good. Our LAFC, they're the nuts. They're really good. Last night, it played them. It was like a ridiculous plus $1.15 to win the game. I mean, they should have won by 6 goals. So anyway, but I'm talking all of it. I've watched all of them, and it's the eyeball test. So the long-winded story is the hockey thing is going to be the exact same thing because there are too many unknowns. We don't know who wants to be there. So you watch the thing, and you'll sit there and go, well, oh boy, Ovechkin, he's doing flybys. He could have killed that guy, and he just skated by the guy. You're going to see things, you go, they don't look like them. They're saying the right thing, but their head's not in it. And I think by watching these teams and who embraces the situation, who's come off the shelf, who looks crisp, who looks rusty, we can talk till we're blue in the face and rattle off names and trends. And this is the eyeball test. You got to watch and see, are they into it? And that's where we're going to make money in this thing.
The Rangers and the Hurricanes here. Carolina's minus 145. I feel like I've seen a lot of people
Everybody
pretty
loves
high
the
on the
Rangers.
chances for the Rangers at plus 125. Are you falling into that boat too?
No. Can it happen? Yeah. But everybody's in love with the Rangers. It's like, you know what happens, man. When everybody's on one side, run the other way. I like this Carolina team. I think Williams is a leader. And if Williams gets them on, they're kind of a Bondy kind of team. We saw all the stuff they did after the games last year. I like Carolina as a team. Goaltending can be sketchy. But the Rangers, you got a 3-horse battle for the goalie. I think it'll be Shesterkin. But I don't know. Just too many people are doing a cartwheel about the Rangers. It kind of scares me.
As we look at the next series here, the Panthers and the Islanders. Islanders minus 125, Panthers plus 105. This is the closest we've got to a toss-up here in the Eastern Conference. What do you think about this series?
I have a future on the Islanders, which I basically was taking a Bic lighter to, and now the break comes. So, anybody can get on a roll here. So, okay, I'll watch. And I like Barry Trotz in a series. He's an X factor. I don't trust either team. I would just say to you, if you're watching and you say, oh, they look pretty good, or something's amiss with these guys, I think it's correlated. Islanders win games, low scoring. Panthers win games, high scoring. I don't trust either one of them from a series perspective. I'm rooting for the Islanders because they got a bad future on them. But I think it's a correlated series in terms of the team you like over in the games with the Panthers, or under if the Islanders are dictating play.
Well, and I guess that's the question here. I mean, the Islanders, very low-scoring team, one of the fewest goals scored totals in the Eastern Conference, but also one of the fewest goals allowed in the Eastern Conference. Florida just plays track meets. They're one of the highest teams in both goals for and goals against. With this long layoff, which style of play do you feel like it's more favorable for?
I couldn't. I can't say with conviction. I would lend itself more to the under team, simply because these guys are coming off a long layoff. And I think in time, when these guys get up to speed, but it might be too late, when they get their timing back and all the the crisp passing and that sort of stuff is going to improve with every game, with every series, with every round. So out of the gate, I would lean more to the team that plays the simplistic under kind of style, and that's not these two teams specifically, just generally speaking. The team better in their own end, playing a simple game, is the way I would lean. So that would be the Islanders.
Last series here of the qualifying round, Columbus and Toronto. Toronto minus $1.65, Columbus plus 145 on the takeback. Nobody knows who's going to be in net for the Blue Jackets yet. I think it'll be Jonas Korpisalo, but Tortorella hasn't announced it yet. So what do you think about this series?
I like Columbus. I only like two series in the first round, and I could be wrong on both of them because, again, there are so many unknowns. I love Winnipeg in the West, and this was the one in the East. I really like Columbus. I think, okay, it's in their mind. They beat Tampa last year, but it's a completely different team. But Tortorella, they lost everybody. They went for it last year and got nothing in return for all the UFAs. And this guy brought them back, and they played with heart and some grit. Toronto's defense is sketchy at best. They've got weapons all over the place. But, again, if skill takes a while to get up to speed, at that price, I just think Columbus plays a dump and chase game and is physical, and I don't think the Leafs are anywhere near physical enough. They've got the better skill set. There's no getting around that. But I like the plus price. I like Columbus.
Real quickly here as we finish up, not NHL news, but the Washington Nationals said that they will not travel to Miami for this weekend's 3-game series. So not only does Major League Baseball have this problem of all the Marlins testing positive, now teams don't want to play the Marlins. So I guess we'll see how this plays out.
But that's exactly right. And then, but the thing is, so if okay, yeah, we can manage this, and the Marlins are out of the. What are you doing? Yeah. Are those games forfeits? It's not fair to the teams that don't have Miami on their schedule, and the clock is ticking. You're packing 100 pounds in a 50-pound bag here. Missing a game means a doubleheader, which they loathe. But if they fall, Miami falls 5 or 6 games behind in all these games you're going to make, what do? I mean, how are you going to complete this damn season?
I don't know. I have no idea. I guess we'll find out, but it looks like Major League Baseball possibly falling apart, which is not a good sign for everything else going forward.
Bet your baseball while you can, folks.
Yeah, there you go. Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how can people check out those 2 shows of yours?
KSHP.com. There's the listen live function every day, noon to 2 Pacific time. I put the shows up, the archive shows on my Twitter at Brian Blessing, and a lot of other cool stuff. So the Twitter at Brian Blessing, we'll get it all out there for you. And if you got time, again, there's a listen live function at KSHP.com, noon to 2 weekdays Pacific time.
Absolutely great to chat with Brian Blessing once again at Brian Blessing on Twitter. Brian, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much, sir, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, pal. Have a good week.
There you go. There's Brian Blessing, sportsbookradio.com, KSHP.com, at Brian Blessing on Twitter. Coming up on Thursday, a new edition of the Bettor's Box, assuming that there's still baseball to talk about at that point in time. I'll give you some recaps of the series here that are going on this week and preview the weekend ahead as well. That'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and I'll talk to you again on Thursday.